Lawrie Goes Loco is sponsored by the Foxfield Railway.
Today I climb out of a hole, move a thing and drive a tram.
Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM. Today we have returned to the Statfold Barn Railway to look at something that isn't actually a locomotive. Behind me, you'll see that we have a tram, or maybe we have a rail car. You see, this wonderful thing behind me was built for the Burton and Ashby Light Railway, which was basically a tramway. But because it says railway on the side of it, I believe by the convention of that makes it a rail car, despite that it is indeed certainly a tram, looks like a tram, and did I mention it's definitely a tram. This is the sole surviving vehicle from the railway, tramway. Nothing else survives. And what's even better is it was just 5 miles in a that-way direction that this thing used to run. So it's really nice that it's preserved running close to where it was built to run for. It was built in 1906 by Brush Electric. Yes, the famous Brush. They built trams as well as other things like locomotives that you're more familiar with. So that's kind of cool because it's not your traditional thing. When we think of Brush, we don't think of things like that. And it had a rather, short life. The railway tramway only lasted for 20 years. And my favourite thing about the entire route is there was a stop called Stanhope. However, if you pronounce it in the local dialect, it's pronounced stand up. So everybody who was from out of town, when you approached Stanhope, the conductor would go, stand up. And everybody would stand up and like, why, what's going on? Which is wonderful, I think. The next thing I want to draw your attention to is just how pretty it is. Isn't it gorgeous? It is very much a traditional tram. When you think of tram, this is the thing that comes up. Not that modern rubbish, not one of the Brighton Pier ones. This is a tram. This is the tram that is ingrained in my head. It's gorgeous. I love how everything curves and I love the colour. I love the cream and what I'm told is vermilion, the closest we can get to the Midland Railway colours, because I'll tell you more about that later. But the way that it all comes together on this is just so amazingly pretty. I love the period adverts at the top. It's fantastic, isn't it? It really does feel like, I know we have this all the time with heritage vehicles, they feel like they've been plucked out of yesterday, but this really does. There's something about a tram that just screams yesterday. And this, with the colour and the lining, it just all works so amazingly well. I love the bits of brass on it, the brake handle, I love the lights on it. It just, everything about it's so pretty. I'm kind of taken with it. I don't know if you can guess. The railway, or tramway, delete as appropriate, has a fairly interesting history. Originally, it was proposed by a group of wealthy businessmen from Burton who had the route, the idea of making public transportation in the area better. And at the proposal stage, the Midland Railway got wind of it and went, no, we don't think that's a very good idea, not wanting any competition. And so the idea was very much squashed and didn't happen at all. And then, coincidentally, a few months later, the Midland Railway came up with exactly the same thing. Identical in every way. And so the tramway/railway came into being. And it continued running all the way into LMS days. However, it wasn't to last long. You see, the railway strike of 1926, well, most people who needed public transportation to go to work, when your train doesn't run, you tend to find an alternative method. And when the train starts running again, you tend to go, I'm staying with my alternative method that doesn't go on strike. And that was the end of it. Everyone just didn't come back after the strike. I mean, admittedly, before that, things were already getting a bit into difficulty. The omnibus had come along and people favouring that over the railway. And in fact, the guy managing the railway had come up with a wonderful idea. He'd noticed that the receipts showing how much they were taking were down and things were getting a little bit dire. So he wrote off to Derby to say, hey guys, I've got this wonderful idea. I'm going to sell advertising space on the side of the tram because it's a mobile billboard. And that's how they kept the coppers topped up. This is how this remained a viable enterprise, not from passengers, but being a mobile billboard. And I think that's absolutely spectacularly wonderful. As it's still here, you may think, well, obviously something happened to this after 1926 to preserve it. Not quite. As with so many other trams, when the tramway was closed, it was sold off to become a potting shed, maybe a summer house, a meeting room, just an oddity for somebody's garden. And this one, that's how it survived. This one and one of its sisters went to a local landowners where they were presumably at one point used, but then kind of forgotten about and left to the side. And when I say forgotten about, it wasn't until the 70s, yes, the 70s, until a group of local railway enthusiasts got together and went, in the bushes over there, isn't that a tram that used to run round here? And they went, oh yeah, probably should try and save one of those before it disintegrates into nothing. And so they came together, found the landowner and said, we'd like to buy one of your trams and save it. So this one was not their first choice. No, they went for the other one. They put some ropes around it, found a tractor and gently started to pull it out of the undergrowth. The tram refused and started to do kind of this bit and get a bit longer, and the top of it started to do a bit of that, and they went, maybe this one. And this one came out in one piece. The other one, yeah, that's gone. So that was its first bit of survival. It shouldn't have survived that period of time, and it certainly shouldn't have come back out of the bushes, but it did. And so the group moved it and took it to the most logical place you can think of to begin restoration. Yes, the local model railway club. Yes, the local model railway people decided that this one-to-one scale was the best thing they could spend their time on. I'm very grateful that they did, but it's not quite what I expect when I think of model railway people. And they begun the restoration of this. And they managed to get the saloon mostly restored and had begun work on the top deck. And that's when the story changes again, because a relatively wealthy American businessman decided that he wanted a tram, because he had a venture in Detroit. And so this was sold unfinished to go over to America land. And the gentleman finished it off. He paired it with this Portuguese tram chassis and put American axles underneath it, which means that the original railway was 3'6", but this one to work in Detroit was 3 foot. So it was regauged to become a 3-foot tram. And over in America land, it went and it ran as, well, a bit of a heritage line. Somewhere, and I'm not entirely sure where during its history, the gentleman sold it to Detroit City and it became a city attraction, which is all well and good. Of course, until that thing that happened in 2003 where Detroit kind of ran out of money and everything went a bit south. And so once again, this was surplus to requirements as the tramway closed. And you would expect a city with no money would probably want to have sold it off to get rid of it, trying to get a bit of cash flow. But no, it was parked somewhere and forgotten about again for the second time in its history for a decade. Just gone. Like this working tram, but forgotten about. Eventually, rumours of its existence started to surface and they were confirmed. And a certain Mr. Graham Lee, who had already by this point acquired several other bits of industrial heritage, decided that he too quite fancied a tram. And so he got in contact and a sale went through. He decided, yes, I would buy it. And so he went off to Detroit to go and inspect his new purchase and put it onto a lorry to bring it back to Blighty. When Mr. Lee turned up to inspect his new purchase in American land, he was confronted by something he wasn't quite expecting. And that was not quite a mob, but a large group of rather disgruntled ex-employees of the city who were owed a substantial amount of money. And as there was no money going around, they were not in the greatest of moods. And so when the Englishman turned up and went, "Excuse me, I'd like to get into that shed over there," they went, "No." So, not to be too deterred by this, Graham explained his position. He was like, "Well, I've bought this tram and I'd like to take it home." To which they went, "We don't care. it's staying here because we've not been paid. And Graham went, well, gotta be honest with you, I bought it not knowing about any of this. I've paid my money, nobody told me, come on, like, this isn't my fault. And this went back and forth with a lot of no's, and eventually a deal was struck. Graham would buy everybody breakfast, and if he bought everybody breakfast, they would allow him access to remove his tram. The bill from this breakfast cost $3,000. I just want to reiterate that, $3,000. That is a lot of hungry people, but it does show that filling bellies is a good way to make friends. So once the Englishman had fed the Americans, the next day he turned up, they all parted way and there was nobody there. The tram was very hastily pulled out onto a lorry and they shot off across the border to Canada where it would be safe, thinking that nearly went pretty south. And then from Canada, it was packed up in a container and shipped back here, arriving in 2015. Now, this thing is quite the remarkable survivor for this, because there are so many points during its history where normal people would have gone, nah, it's gone. Normal people confronted with a mob would have gone, it's all right, you can keep it. But no, this thing is one of the most amazing survivors of anything I've ever seen. It really should not be here. It really, really should not have survived. Everything that it's come up against should have been the end of it. But not so. And that makes it particularly special. And just anything that's old and heritage is special, but this thing is extra special. It's like, you remember when you play Pokemon, you got a shiny rare one? That's what this is. It's the shiny rare variety of heritage.
Whilst you've been watching Lawrie Goes Loco, have you ever thought, I really want to do what he gets to do? Well, I've got good news for you, because the Foxfield Railway offer a driver experience course where you'll be welcomed up onto the footplate, where you can sample one of these amazing engines close up and get a sense of the sheer power and magnificence that they present. It's a treat for all of the senses. Not only do you get to feel the power of the regulator, but you'll feel the heat emanating from the fire beneath you. And believe me, being on the footplate is one of the best experiences that this world has to offer. And it's not just the driving. You'll be shown how to swing a shovel and how to fire a steam locomotive, all under the watchful eye of our experienced volunteers who will tell you everything that you need to know and keep a watchful eye on you. And just think, this could be you driving a full-size steam locomotive.
And remember to use our exclusive code for money off.
And that's not all. As part of your day, you'll be taken up into our signal box and shown how a railway works safely. Absolutely no experience is needed, so check out the link in the video description to book. And to help me out here at LMM and to keep up to date with things that are going on at the railway, sign up for the newsletter, remembering to click the You Found Us Through LMM to let them know that you found them through me. And with that, on with your regular content.
Before I take you inside the saloon, there's one feature I really like, and that's this, the marker lights. At the moment, we have this red lens over the lamp for going that way. This would be your red light. But if I do this and reveal the lens and then put the clear marker on, I now have my white light for going that way. It's a wonderful little feature. It's so simple, but yet so wonderfully elegant. So obviously there would be a lamp behind there. Coming into here, it is beautiful. Everything in here, all the wood is varnished and gorgeous, and it's all this nice curved design that gently cushions your backside without any kind of suspension whatsoever. And it's all full of these wonderful lights. The grooving, tiling, whatever they call it, on the ceiling, very pretty. The windows up here and the design of the wood with patterns marked into it. It's so beautiful, and there's so much time and effort gone into every little piece. Just the design here and the little bits of flowery what's it in there, it's all just really, really pretty, and kind of takes us back to that day where everything like this was a little bit special. It was an occasion to get on the tram, to go on a trip. It was something a bit special, and it had to look special and kind of have the fashion of the day and the ideas and the design of the day. And it just makes it so much more grand. It is an occasion to go on. It looks impressive. It looks like hard work has gone into it. Design, effort. Somebody thought about it rather than the plastic rubbish you get on today where someone just went on a program and just went, oh, a train, don't know, render. And it's like, poof, there you go, there's a train for you. This somebody had to sit down and think about, and it's absolutely spectacularly gorgeous for that. I wish we still have things that look like this. Like you get into it and it's like getting into your granddad's study and you're like, it's just so much nicer. I really wish we still did stuff like this. Having come up here, up to peasant class on top where there is no roof, you may have noticed that there is one notable feature of a tram that is missing. And that, of course, would be the overhead connector, what they call the trolley. This doesn't have it because the observant amongst you may have already noticed that at Statfold there is no overheads, which would rather negate the purpose of having the trolley and the electrical pickup. So, I hear those of you with putting things together in your head, how exactly does this thing move? This has been remade to run on batteries. Yes, this is a battery-operated tram. It is a BEV. That is entirely not how it started life, but it's a way that it can continue to be used in an environment under which that normally it wouldn't be able to done. They do say, however, that the owner of this, who started Statfold, when he got this, his original plan was to install an overhead gantry for it to run with, and the local planning office went, not a chance, no. And so this was the best thing, because he wanted it to work. So if you can't have overhead power, bring the power to you. It does also mean that if I walk around up here with an umbrella, I'm not going to fry myself. So it means I can enjoy the top deck in the rain with my umbrella and not be fried. So actually, it's a win-win situation. So welcome back to the... It's not really a cab on a tram. I think they like to call it the platform, but I prefer the command centre of the tram. And the controls on this, well, they are somewhat complex. You see, we have this device here. This is a safety mechanism. This is known as the key. And this goes on to here. Now, unlike other trams that I've driven, where this is also your reverser, this is a dead man's handle. And by doing thus, I activate the dead man's handle. And if you hold it for 5 seconds, it goes click, which means the tram is now live. So if I then push this in a forward direction like that, we will launch off at a rate of knots in that way direction. This is a proportional control, so it's a very, very gentle thing. Also, slight delay on this, you have to move it, it clicks, and then the thing will start going. Equally, if I bring it this way, that's dynamic braking. This here is a handbrake, and this is basically just used now as my parking brake, as everything else is done on here. I have the gong, which is down there for communicating with my guard. Yeah, okay, that brings us to the end of the control system on here. It's obviously not the original system that it had. This has been essentially rebuilt and brought up to be modern spec and works with the batteries that it got. It's a whole new system. It's inspired by how it originally worked. They used to have a dead man's handle on this. It didn't work quite like this. It was a mechanical thing rather than electronic black magic wizardry, but it's the same principle. It's inspired by and kind of drives in a similar kind of way. But there isn't really much to talk about. There's still no gauges or levers or anything at all. I have no idea if the thing is happy. For my indication here, I don't even know if the batteries are charged. I might drive down the line and get to the bottom and be like, we're not coming back. But that does bring me to the other point. There's no reverse. I can only drive in this way direction from this cab. To be a tram, you have to have a control system at each end, which logically means that in order to go back that way, I need to walk through to that end, taking that with me, and then we can go backwards. So with the controls looked at, we might as well now begin on the prep work. Now, the first thing we had to do was, of course, unplug it from the mains and draw it outside. And with that evidently done, next stage is to find ourselves a can of oil, and find ourselves a rag, and now come inside. Now, you might notice that there's these panels on the floor. And these lift up like so. And then somehow you have to kind of gently and carefully wedge it on top like that and slide it across. And that reveals down here. Now, this isn't a secret escape for jumping out on the run. No, this is how we get to these two little pots here and here, which both require some oil. Right, so with that done, put that there, gracefully elevate our way out of there, reach across and grab the panel, and gently and skillfully slide it across, and then repeat for the other axle. Again, pick it up and wiggle it away. And once again, drop down into here and start filling up these axle boxes. Big old reserves in here. And then of course, the other one, like this. And that concludes the prep in here. Next, we need to head outside. Once I've climbed back out and put the floor back, that is. Right, next, it's just these axle boxes here. So with a trusty adjustable spanner, otherwise known as the adjustable hammer, we can just slack these off enough to get them finger tight, hopefully, to be able to get this thing off like so. And 2, take the cover off and just chuck some more oil into the journal itself. Like that, until we can see some oil actually appear. Keep going. There we go. And with that nice and full, we can put the cover back on, making sure it's the right way up, so not to upset everybody, and then just put the bolts back in. Now, once I've completed doing this, there's 3 more to do. However, frankly, seeing me do one is more than enough. So we'll just skip filming the next ones and just quickly whip round and get it done. Which means that it's now ready to take out for a drive. Awesome. The other majorly important thing is to energise the tram. So we take off the cover here, which once would have had the resistant banks, and this now has the modern control system. So I'll drop down here and switch this onto on, making it a good click, and then turn the key, which arms the tram. So it's now powered up and ready to do something. So immediately driving this is a completely different experience to anything else that I've driven. It's far more modern in the terms of how you actually drive it. I need to keep this thing here held. If I let go of this lever, everything stops. It's got to be that held still to keep things moving. That is our dead man's. And that makes it very unusual compared to anything else really I've driven. And it's so strange having this kind of level of electronic control on a machine that is this age. It's a weird combination of old and new that goes together in a very, very strange way. Now I'm told that this is indeed the way that it used to work. You used to have a dead man's control on it that you had to keep on, and obviously that was mechanical, but it's very strange because the way the power goes down is silky smooth, but also very delayed, and it feels very electronic. There doesn't feel like there's a direct link towards power, because there's not. The computer has to think, do you want more power? And then give me more power. The computer is also saying that I can go a maximum of 13 miles an hour. So if I ask for maximum power like this on the hill, it will give me maximum power up to 13 miles an hour, and then we will continue. So I don't really feel like I'm the one fully in control. I feel like I'm talking to a computer and the computer's then driving the tram. I feel like I'm a helmsman saying what I'd like to do, and then the computer itself is the driver. And that's not bad, but it certainly feels very weird on a machine this old. Also on Strange Sensations is just driving along here, driving a tram on 3-foot gauge track through the grass. Now, this is a different experience. I've never done anything like this before. And it's not the smoothest laid bit of railway in the world, I'll give you that. The tram does rather find every single joint, and you can feel it as it hits every rail joint going up and down on that single bogie. And then when it finds a curve, it does rather drive straight into it and then bounce itself around. And because the wheels are so far back and there's so much overhang, I really feel it suddenly as we lurch to one side. That said, the way that it actually does rise and fall is quite pleasant. It's not rough. The suspension takes the majority of it and just works with it. But it's not a smooth ride. It's an undulating up and down to side move. It's very different. It's not at all what I was expecting this to do. But it is quite pleasant. The other thing, of course, is if I now bring this down and bring it that way, we have regenerative braking. Yes, that's right. So the brakes will actually start regenerating us power to recharge the batteries. It's a very strange and different sensation, but I do quite like it. And so as we come up here, we'll slow down again because we've got a nice steep curve going on. And we'll just use a bit of the regenerative braking, slow it down, and now feel as it bounces its way around here. Nice and gently around here, otherwise it is. And what's very strange is my actual driving position, I'm off the rails at that point. That's how steep it is, and the gradient on it's that different. It's a very, very different thing. Now, acceleration itself is slow. It takes time to slowly wind itself up. I wouldn't say that it's kind of rapid. It's slow, and I don't know, I don't feel like I'm driving that. It's decided that it's going to drive like that. In terms of sensation though, and how it actually kind of makes you feel, I'm so grateful that this is still here. It's a wonderful survivor, and something that really, when you think about it, it shouldn't still be around full stop, far less even in the UK. And so for that, and for the heritage it has in its story, driving it feels something really, really special. It's rare to drive something that you really appreciate. It is that much of a survivor, and it really is that much of an event to actually see it, and more of an event to actually control it. And the amount of work that has had to go in to restore it to a drivable vehicle. More so a drivable vehicle that's in the public eye. And for that, it really is truly, truly special. I guess the big question, of course, is, do I want it? The answer is no. No, this doesn't interest me enough. I think the history of it is superb, and I think what it is superb. But it's the control method. It's far too soulless for me. I like things that you have to work with, and this it doesn't do it for me. It's a good system, and it makes it foolproof, and it makes it fit for the 21st century. And already I've done a few trips, and already my hand's starting to tire pulling around the dead man switch on it. And this way, well, it's just, you can just drive it by just leaning like this, pushing one backwards and pulling one forwards, and it doesn't go fast enough to come into any harm. It will just slowly wind its way up. And of course, because it's on those new, more modern motors, they don't hum in the way that I expect. They're so quiet in its operation. I think if you had this on some track that was absolutely perfectly smooth rather than what we're on here, this would be silent in its operation. It would be completely quiet and modern. I mean, this is a weird blend of old and new in that modern control system and 100-year-old body. And it does come together into something wonderful. It really does. I think this thing is stunning. I really do. And the fact that we can see a tram running on the railway without overheads, I like how the conversion's been done to it in a sympathetic way and to make it usable. I think that's all very, very good. And it is truly stunning. It really is unlike anything else I've driven. Just this whole sensation, the narrow gauge, the way it bounces and rides around, it's marvellous. It really is. Even though I don't like the electronics on it, I still appreciate it is just an absolutely marvellous piece of kit and a real credit to the Statfold Barn Railway, and a real credit to the man who saved it, because what a hero, really. What a hero. We're now back at the terminus, which means it's the end of the video. Looking at this, I still don't really know what it is. It says railway on the side, so that would make it a rail car. But everybody here calls it a tram because, let's be honest, it's blatantly a tram. So I don't really know what it is, but that's not the important point. The important point is the fact that it is still here. It's an incredible piece of history, which by all accounts, in multiple points during its journey, it should have been forgotten about and abandoned. And yet, here it is, something that we can all enjoy. And that is truly special. And I like the sympathetic restoration that's been done. The fact that although it's been updated to modern standards, it still has a nod back. The systems are inspired by the way that it used to work. And that's really important. And although I don't like that electric bit of it, I still like the idea behind it. And that's the most important thing. It's here and it works. And you can come and see it. If you want more information on this, on the Statfold Barn Railway, then the information is in the video description for the website. And if you want to do a bit of what I do and actually drive it, they do driver experiences on this. You can drive it yourself. Or if you want to actually volunteer, they're always looking for more people. If you want to get involved and help maintain, look after and operate the absolutely excessively massive collection of narrow gauge vehicles here, they'd love to hear from you. It's a lovely group of people. So with that, guys, I hope you've enjoyed looking at the tram. Let us know in the comments what you think about it. And of course, if you have enjoyed it, how about clicking down there somewhere for one of the other videos we've done here at the Statfold Barn Railway, or up there for one of the other videos we've done on another locomotive. Ta-ra!